and because they're up in their helicopters, but then the real men show up and are trying to help the children as they're bleeding. And you hear the helicopter pilots laughing, saying, shouldn't bring kids to a battle. It wasn't a battle. They were just flying around, blowing up minivans and people with video cameras. And you know, even if you in crossfire, collateral damage, kill kids, you don't, or hurt kids, shoot them up with a big cannon. You don't sit there and laugh about it. I mean, these guys are scum. And I'm not talking about the whole military, but I'm talking about the types they promote, the types they want. You know, they are cowards without their black uniforms, just like corrupt cops, without all their trinkets. You know what? You know what? I mean, you know what? Let's strip down to loincloths and pick up swords and see who wins this fight. You know, I'm not a tough guy, but I'll tell you right now, you know, you get into a fight with me, I'm ready to beat the living daylights out of you if you're a bully and attacking me. I can't hurt a fly if somebody isn't attacking me. But you attack me, I am a savage caveman. These guys are cowards, and I can see it in their eyes, Gerald, and that's who they're promoting. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, and just to stay on that line, we're going to see more and more of it happen in this country. Everybody knows it already. Look at what's going on with so many of the police. They have to keep their jobs. They have quotas to meet. We saw it in the reports in New York. They came out, they were on tape talking about it. So what they're doing now is they're squeezing the little people. And they're going to continue to squeeze harder and harder, bust you for any little provocation or infraction, while the big guys get a free ride. Why is it, Alex, that every one of these drug dealers with these major companies, these pharmaceutical companies, that get busted for lying and cooking the books on the test that they did, showing that these drugs were deadly, why do the Goldman Sachs gang and all these others that get busted for criminal activities, how come none of them ever do any time? How come? And how come if you get caught having 2 drinks and you go over that yellow line and get stopped at a checkpoint, boy, they got handcuffs on you, they're slapping you against the car, and they're dragging you off to jail. That's what's happening to America, and it's going to get worse. Just like they busted that little kid in Oregon, remember that? Selling lemonade because she didn't have a $140 license to sell lemonade. Boy, she better mark that stuff up. And what did the guy do that's the health inspector? Well, you know, we got to protect the people, whether it's somebody small or somebody big. Yeah, like Auschwitz Farm, the eggs over there, this $500 million that they recalled. Alex, how many times was the FDA there in a year? Try none.
Yeah. Well, I mean, going back to this overall issue, you've got the Mexican drug cartels, the government fighting with them over the drug money. You've got a woman seeing her husband killed, and now the investigators had his head cut off, and the media is still trying to deny that anybody was killed when Falcon Lakes had a bunch of people attacked on it, you know, going back 6 months ago. 28,000 plus deaths on the border in the last 3 years, 2.5 years, and there's this automatic denial. I mean, they might as well call the border itself a conspiracy theory and just tell people it doesn't exist or something, or Mexico doesn't exist. I mean, it is this massive, complete, willful denial of reality, and they've pulled the Border Patrol back 10 miles from the border. The police are scared to death, but when they're pulling over an old lady shaking her down, they feel real tough, and it's all bluster. It's all hat and no cattle, like we say here in Texas, and it's just so scary to see it. And like you talked about the drugs, it comes out these big drug makers with the New Freedom Initiative are in the schools, brainwashing kids as a market. They got 20% on these drugs. They want half of them on the drugs on their own documents. They know it's causing heart problems, brain problems, suicide. And it comes out they internally know this, and they don't even get in trouble. And parents just send their kids to public school where the school spies on the parents of the kids, trains the kids how to spy on their parents, and tries to put your kid on drugs, or if they see a bruise on your daughter or son's knee, they try to take them from you, and you put up with pot-bellied pedophiles showing up at your house called CPS trying to take your kid because you're a good parent. Meanwhile, if it's CPS in New York or someplace, every time, there's some crackhead, and they know that the 4-year-old weighs 15 pounds, and they let the baby, 4-year-old who looks like a tiny baby, die in their own excrement in their bed. I mean, it just shows this government is filled with demonic pigs.
A friend of mine just came down from Canada. We're about 4.5 hours south of Canada. And he stopped, he's getting to the border. He's Canadian. And he pulled over just before to tell his wife that he was going to be, he's almost into New York. And as he's there making the call, all of a sudden this guy comes up to him, his armed guy. "What are you doing?" Guess what? I'm just calling my wife. "Well, move on over here. You can't stay here." And, he said, "Well, what's going on?" The guy was cool about it. He didn't want to inflame the border security. He pulls up to go show his passport, and he gets the same routine over there. And you know what it was? They were afraid. It makes them uneasy to see somebody there. They were afraid. All of these armed people were afraid for some, 75-year-old guy unparked, texting. They're the ones that are afraid. And you talked about what's going on in Mexico. Yeah, it's going to be going on in the U.S. too. You talked about crack. Guess what? You have half the population graduating high schools to these major cities that in high school that can't graduate. You know what they're going to graduate into? What gang? And that's what you're going to start seeing more and more of. And you think they're going to blow your brains out for a fix for $10 for crack? You bet they will, because they're out of their minds. And that's the direction America's going in. The education system, what a joke. What a sick joke. If this education system was worth 2 cents, we wouldn't be in the problems that we have now. If this education system was working and wasn't a college industrial complex, you wouldn't have these kids going to NYU and be $120,000 in debt to have a degree in women's studies and religion. Who could make this up? So what we're looking at, Alex, is a continuation of a system, as you well pointed out, that is draining the people of their brains, that are telling them how to think, what to do, and how to behave. Listen, if I was born now, they would have had me whacked out on Ritalin a long time ago. And so what's happened is that by their deeds you shall know them. And the deed is this: the education system stinks. 90% of the teachers should have a job out there and go do something to earn a living. The whole thing has to be changed around. Here's the story. We have the internet revolution now. We have online learning, distance learning. Go to India, go to China. They're graduating engineers 10 times more than we're over here. If you want to have a kid, you're responsible for them, not me. So teach them at home. Stay at home and teach them. You have all this online stuff, and then maybe we'll send them to a centralized location to be brainwashed a couple of days a week. And who made up this stuff that when you go to college, you have to have a football team, a soccer team, a lacrosse team, a swimming team? You're supposed to go there to learn, not to pay some jerk a couple of $1 million a year as a coach for a football team. Here's the story, Alex. Just had an intern in here. She left. 4 years of college. She got a job in inside sales. Now, what's inside sales? Well, I call up clients that used to have accounts with us and try to renew their accounts. $32,000 a year, 4 years of college, a whole lot of debt. I said, did you have to go to college for this? Well, you know, one time they had a gallery opening at the college, and I was a hostess, so I learned how to work with people, and I thought I would be good on the phone. Maron, I said to myself, who's making this stuff up?
And she's telling herself she learned how to deal with people because she was at one event at college. She could have gone and worked at a drugstore to learn how to deal with people. She could have...
Exactly. The whole college education is, unless you're going to be an engineer, you know, a specialty, an accountant, a doctor, you know, yeah, okay. And then we don't need any more lawyers. That's it. We don't need any more laws either. Bring back the laws that worked before. Bring back Glass-Steagall. Bring back the Sherman Antitrust Act, the Robertson-Patman Act that prohibited the Walmarts and all these other greedy pigs from robbing the country blind. Close down the state houses. We don't have to pay these. Who made up a line? I mean, how could you do? I'm a lawmaker. A lawmaker? We don't need any more laws. Get rid of them. Get rid of the laws. Put back the ones that work.
That's right. That's like implying they're Moses, the lawgiver. These are public servants. These are elected representatives. They're not lawmakers, officials, authorities. And I watched the newscast of, say, the Texas legislature, and it's all these effeminate men, you know, metrosexuals, all with their hair coiffed in these $5,000 suits. And they're so corrupt, they showed it on the news. In front of news cameras, they will sit there and vote multiple times, and they all, in fact, pull that up. Texas legislature, you know, vote multiple times. We might play a clip of it because you have to see it. And they'll just be like going like this, voting as many times as they can, looking at the other ones going, I'm going to beat you. And voting for others and reaching over to other people's buttons. I mean, it's like a bunch of demonic monkeys.
Well, you know, Alex, I tell this story. The worst job I ever had in my life was... And I grew up in the Bronx in Yonkers. You can imagine the jobs I had. Was when I was the assistant to the Secretary of the New York State Senate. And I used to be involved in politics in Westchester County. And they would brought me up to Albany to groom me. Could you imagine? I'd be chit-chatting in the back with my buddy. You know, I was a guy in my 20s. You know, talking about what guys talk about those days. And when you're that age. And a senator would walk in. And all of a sudden, these big doors would open up. You have a flunky opening the doors. The senator would walk in, and my buddy would leave me and follow the senator like a little puppy dog and pull out the chair to help him sit down. So my friend would come back, and I'd say, hey, what's the matter? I say, a cat can't sit down by himself. He needs some help. And that's how I got the inside look. I saw who these people are. All it is sucking up to the top. You talk about the effeminate nature. How about that Lindsey Graham? You know, that cracker from South Carolina over there. The tough-talking Lindsey Graham. He wants to go bomb Iran if we have to. Hey, Lindsey, pack up your gear and go lead the charge. How about that? So that's what we have here, Alex. We have a bunch of people that don't have the guts to stand up and take one step forward. Get the guy in the White House on the white horse to lead the charge into Iraq, into Afghanistan.
Well, the only thing Lindsey Graham reportedly is going to do is lead a charge into the men's bathroom with his friends.
Yeah, let these guys go fight, and then call them, then let them bring in the others to come in behind them. Now, this is disgusting what's going on.
All right, we've got 45 minutes left with Gerald Celente, and I want to go to Dana, Julio. In fact, Julio will be first, then Dana, and then David, Zach, Jeff, and Adam. We'll at least get to those 7, 8 calls. We've got unlimited coming in the phone banks, but it's always wonderful to have Gerald Celente from TrendsResearch.com on with us. I want to briefly remind everybody, we're trying to raise $500,000 to finish the studio, to expand the next level. We know things are rough and tough. Buy the books, the videos, support us. But, I mean, you know, this is an info war, and I want to commend all those that have given. But for those that are on the fence, there's no half measures here. Don't wish later you would have done more. You know, they give all these millions to these politicians and all the rest of it.